Come, baby.
Enjoy this great game.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Humm Baby Baseball channel. This is Eric, and today we are just going to check out the 2022 ballot for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. This will be voted on very soon. It will be announced in January, and it is one of the most fascinating ballots I can ever remember. You have Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling, all three, in my opinion, definite Hall of Famers on their last year on the ballot. Now, the reason Bonds and Clemens can't get in is clearly because of the steroid connections. But what is really interesting is you have David Ortiz and Alex Rodriguez showing up on the ballot. So for 1 year, all four of these guys will be on the ballot. After this year, that won't be the case because Bonds and Clemens are falling off. If they don't get elected. If they get elected, they're going to be in. So really interesting. Like, is David Ortiz going to get in? Now, he had that one failed steroid test that wasn't supposed to go public, but there's kind of some questions about, the authenticity of it and things like that. And was he really on roids or not? Because he didn't fail any other steroid tests his entire career. He seemed to have a clean career, a definite Hall of Fame career. David Ortiz, Big Papi, feels like a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubter, a great human being, and just everything seems awesome about him, but there's that one little failed steroid test. And if the voters are going to be honest, they never vote for anyone with any real steroid connections. They voted for some guys eventually, and it took them some time to vote for guys like Jeff Bagwell and Pudge Rodriguez and, guys like that who we suspect maybe were on some roids, but it hasn't been absolutely proven. There's no failed steroid test, and I guess there's not enough evidence to say no doubt. Obviously some people will have that opinion, but the Hall of Fame has put some of those guys in. But will they put in David Ortiz, who actually has some real evidence indicating that maybe he was on steroids? Especially while not voting for Bonds and while not voting for Clemens. Let me be clear that I think David Ortiz will get in. He will get in, but will he get in this year? That's what I'm really interested in. And Alex Rodriguez, how will A-Rod do? A-Rod failed steroid tests. A-Rod is an absolute juicer. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. People can try to argue Bonds and Clemens. People have argued with me over it. Look, I didn't watch them put the needle in, and they didn't fail any steroid tests, but I think it's pretty obvious if you really do some research that they both have some really heavy connections to steroids, and it's, just forgetting the fact that they became absolute cyborgs late in their career after most players at the age start to decline. They actually became superstar video game type players. It just makes no sense. And then you add all the little, steroid connections and evidence and all that, and it becomes pretty obvious, I think, that they were both heavily using steroids. But no reason to argue about it. The point is the Hall of Fame agrees, because that's why they won't vote them in. Curt Schilling, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, because Schilling is a guy who I think should be in based on his playoff career. He was absolutely amazing, and he had a really good, solid Major League career as well. And I think it all equals Hall of Fame worthiness. However, he can't get in, and I think a lot of that has to do with basically his mean tweets, his political leaning, and how he's very, very aggressive, with putting out his thoughts, and some of them cause a lot of feathers to be ruffled. There's no doubt about that. But in my opinion, he is a Hall of Famer. I don't really care about someone's political leanings. I don't really care about your tweets. I guess there is a point where, if somebody's such a horrible person, they're out there raping women or something, molesting children, okay, I don't really care at that point. Don't vote for them because they're absolute human filth. I really don't care. But Curt Schilling, while he has some crazy opinions, I'm sure, hasn't proven to be that horrible of a person to not give him his vote for the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, when he had a Hall of Fame career. That's just my take on it. People will disagree. So really interesting. We're going to talk about some of the names on this ballot because it is a super interesting ballot. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see some more names on here, including the great Tim Lincecum on the ballot, Jonathan Papelbon on the ballot, Ryan Howard is on the ballot. These are some really good names. Prince Fielder, Jake Peavy on the Hall of Fame ballot, Jimmy Rollins. A lot of these guys wore Giants uniforms. This is insane. Jimmy Rollins, believe it or not, wore Giants uniforms in spring training. The year that he retired, he was actually in spring training with the Giants. Jake Peavy, of course, wore a Giants uniform for a long time. Joe Nathan started his career and, if I'm not mistaken, ended his career with the Giants. But he definitely started his career and pitched at Candlestick Park. Last team Giants, first team Giants. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a lifelong Giant. No, actually, it was a terrible trade that we got rid of Joe Nathan. But yeah, AJ Pierzynski was with the Giants, and it wasn't such a great matchup. That was a crazy time when he was with the Giants, but he was in a Giants uniform. So I'm loving this here. First time ballot, David Ortiz and A-Rod are the two guys, and maybe Mark Teixeira has a chance, are the three guys I think really are possible guys who can get voted in on their first year. Some of these other guys are just trying to stay on the ballot. They're just trying to stay on the ballot as long as possible. So it's going to be really interesting. And Tim Hudson is back on the ballot, another former Giant. So many former Giants and guys who I think should get in, like Jeff Kent. You'll see when I do my video. Andrew Jones should get in. When I do my video, all these guys, I'm probably going to have 10 names. I can look at this right now and see I'm going to have 10 names, but I'm going to have some decisions to make with A-Rod and Ortiz, and it's not going to be easy. So jumping over here to CBS Sports, they have some interesting takes here with Curt Schilling. It'll probably be best for everyone when it's over. I kind of agree with that, but I do think he should get in. He seems to not want to get voted in. I mean, that's what he said. He was pissed off after last year, and he's like, take me off the damn ballot. Just take me off, because he's pissed off. But you know what? I mean, he's somewhat of a drama queen. He was a really cool guy when I met him back when he was a player and I was a kid at the ballpark, signed for me and everything. But ultimately, I mean, Curt Schilling, like I said, you know, a lot of people don't like the guy, and I just don't think you shouldn't vote for someone because you don't like him. You should vote for them based on their career. And Schilling, 71.1% of the vote. I think he's got a really good chance to get in this year. But then again, with his letter to the Hall of Fame asking him to be removed and whatnot, you know, we'll have to see. Now you have Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, forever tied together, so it's a bit poetic that they head into their 10th and final season. Bonds just got 61.8, Clemens got 61.6, and I don't know. I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think they're going to make it. But the big question is, what about A-Rod and Big PAPI on the ballot for the first time? And like this writer says, A-Rod has to be in Bonds and Clemens ballpark. You would think so. Like, there's no way A-Rod can get in. There's no way. A-Rod may get in someday in 6, 7, 8 years from now. He may get in. But there's no way you can vote him in and not Bonds and Clemens without saying we are completely irrelevant and we are horrible and this something needs to change in the way that the election is done, because that's what the voters will be saying if they do that. But we'll have to see. Now, Ortiz, here we have it. He was reportedly via New York Times in 2009 on a list of players who tested positive for PEDs in 2003, but that was supposed to be an anonymous survey to see if the league needed drug testing. Formal testing, which was implemented in 2004, he never failed a test. So do you just let that go, or do you not let that go? I think you should not let it go, at least for this year, because if you're sitting there as a voter like, okay, look, I haven't voted for Bonds and I haven't voted for Clemens. I'm not voting for steroid guys. How can I vote for a guy who actually failed a test? How can I do that? Even though it wasn't supposed to be public, how can I do that? Stick to your guns and don't vote for him at all. If that's how you feel that steroid guys shouldn't get in, no matter how small the evidence or how big the evidence, then you can't vote for him. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see if he gets in. And last season, pretty weak overall class of newcomers like Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter, Tim Hudson. They stayed on the ballot. But this year we got some interesting names. Mark Teixeira, 3-time All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves, World Series ring, 1,862 hits, 409 homers, 400-plus home runs. Jimmy Rollins, he won an MVP, 3-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves, World Series ring, 2,455 hits. I think he has to stay on the ballot. I think he doesn't get in, but he stays on the ballot. You have Joe Nathan ranking 8th in career saves. Jonathan Papelbon 10th. Prince Fielder, who was on his way to a surefire Hall of Fame career, but then he got hurt. He had the neck problems and had to retire early. Really crazy. So we'll see if Prince Fielder can stay on that ballot or even get in. You have guys like Justin Morneau, Ryan Howard, who each won an MVP. Jake Peavy won a Cy Young. Tim LIncecum, super interesting case. Tim LIncecum is a dude that has 2 Cy Young awards, 3 rings, 2 no-hitters, but unfortunately, he didn't stay great long enough. That flame just burned out a little too early, and I think Tim LIncecum doesn't have the overall numbers to ever get in my opinion. He's a Hall of Famer in my heart, of course. Tim LIncecum is a legend, but I don't think he's going to get in despite all of the hardware. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. Can Rollins, Helton, Wagner, Jones keep momentum? Now, this is a conversation that's going to piss me off because these guys are, especially Jones, but I think that all four of these guys are Hall of Famers. Absolutely. But Andrew Jones, how the hell is Andrew Jones not getting more support? Are you kidding me? He had 7.3%, 7.5%. That is just horrible in his first 2 years on the ballot. This is a dude who won multiple Gold Glove awards and hit nearly 500 home runs, or he pushed 500. He hit over 400 home runs, and he was a ridiculously good defender. What else you got to do? He was the equivalent of an Ozzie Smith or something, but in the outfield. But Ozzie Smith couldn't hit. I mean, he was okay, but you know what I mean. Andrew Jones is a beast on both sides of the field, and I know he started to struggle late in his career, and yeah, he played 6 or 7 years where he was injured, but just terrible. Just terrible. Andrew Jones needs in. Andrew Jones is definitely a Hall of Famer. Gary Sheffield's another guy getting some momentum, but he also has some steroid problems, so anyone with steroid connections is pretty much not getting in unless Big Papi can do it, which is going to be, wow, what a conversation. If he gets in and the other guys don't, I think I'm going to have a little rant video because it's just not right. You know, I understand Big Papi's a Hall of Famer. I agree with that. I think Big Papi should get in. But to not vote for Bonds, not vote for Clemens, not vote for any of these other guys, and then you vote in Big Papi because you like him because he's nice, what's going on? You know, at least hold off on the Big Papi induction, in my opinion. How much will Vizquel tumble? Vizquel, I think, is a Hall of Famer, but now news broke about his alleged domestic violence. And this day and age, he's done. He couldn't even get in when we thought he was the great guy. And I'm not saying he's not a great guy necessarily, but, you know, alleged domestic violence doesn't look good. We got to wait for details on that. I'm not really sure, but there you have it. I mean, there's also the committee, the Veterans Committee, going to do some elections here, and they have their own guys. We can jump back here and scroll up. We can see lots of names here: Dick Allen, Jim Cott. I'm sorry, Jim Cott is a guy who had an amazingly long career, and I think he should get some consideration. Roger Maris, I've always wanted Roger Maris to get in. So super interesting names. Tony Oliva I was going to mention, but yeah, a lot of interesting names. And it's going to be, it's just going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. Here's the Golden Days, Ken Boyer, guys like Allie Reynolds on here, Vic Harris, John Donaldson, Buck O'Neill, some absolutely legendary players on that probably should get in. We'll have to see. But, you know, I think the biggest interest for most of us lies in the main ballot right here. And it's going to be really interesting to see. I will definitely have my video, but the way it seems to usually work is maybe one or two guys get in. And I honestly think right now, Curt Schilling may be able to sneak in. Other than that, as far as the new names, I think it's going to be a big question whether Big Papi gets in or not. Mark Teixeira may get in. It may be nobody. Nobody might get in. We'll have to wait and see because these voters are, they're stuck up and they don't like to vote for people, but that's just my opinion. You guys have a great day. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this new ballot. We'll have a lot of videos on the Hall of Fame. This is just my initial, just kind of glance at it and overall thoughts on it. And I think it's just super, super interesting. Will David Ortiz get in and Bonds and Schilling stay out? If so, I think there's something wrong there. That's just my opinion. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.